Welcome, dear traveler, to Twilight Tale, where the whispers of the past fall gently upon your mind, like the last rays of light before the night takes its hold. Tonight, we drift together through the mists of time to a place where silence is not empty, but full of forgotten secrets. It is said that beneath the stillness of the earth, under the weight of countless ages, lies a city, an ancient city, hidden from all but the keenest eyes. In the heart of the land where the sun never fully sets, where the earth breathes secrets older than memory, there is a place where the oracle once spoke, and a civilization once flourished. But this city, shrouded in mystery, now lies silent, waiting to be remembered. And so, as you settle in, let your breath slow and your thoughts drift softly into the shadows of this forgotten place. The oracle's silence holds its own kind of truth, a truth woven into the stones, the wind, the very earth beneath our feet. Perhaps, like the oracle, you too will hear it, in the quiet spaces between breaths, in the moments where the past meets the present, and where the light of history flickers gently into the night. Close your eyes and let the silence guide you as we begin the journey into the hidden city beneath the oracle's silence. There are places where time becomes a shadow, where the breath of the earth rises like incense, thick with memory. Delphi is one of these places. In the stillness of night, under the soft gaze of the moon, a faint question drifts across the air, a question as old as the mountains, as elusive as the wind. What did the oracle hear before she spoke? The path leading toward the ruins of Delphi winds gently up the mountain, each step soft, as though even the earth itself knows the sacredness of this ground. Above, the night sky stretches endlessly, its stars watching, their pale light spilling softly over the fallen columns that rise like forgotten bones from the earth. Here, in this temple dedicated to Apollo, silence holds the weight of centuries. The ruins are bathed in a silver glow, and you can almost feel the breath of the ancients lingering in the air, suspended between the stones, like a memory that refuses to fade. In the heart of Delphi, beneath the temple's crumbling walls, lies the sacred chamber where the oracle once sat, her spirit entwined with the earth, her words carried on the currents of time. It is said that the air here was thick with warmth, filled with vapors that rose from the earth's deep breaths. Pilgrims, trembling with hope and fear, once descended into this hidden space to seek answers to the mysteries of fate. They came with questions heavy as stone, and in return, they were met with riddles, with prophecies veiled in shadows and smoke. Imagine, then, this sacred chamber, the smell of laurel leaves mingling with the damp earth, the soft glow of distant cauldrons casting flickering shadows on the walls. It is said that the oracle would sit in this space, her senses dulled by the thick vapors that curled around her like spirits. The smoke rose from the fissures of the earth, a breath of the gods themselves, or perhaps simply the breath of the earth's deep, forgotten heart. And yet, the oracle did not tremble alone in the dark. No, her words were not hers alone to speak. They were gifts, veiled in riddles, and offered through her as though she were merely a vessel. The ancient priests recorded her visions on wax tablets, their quills trembling as they sought to transcribe the divine. Perhaps there were truths whispered in that smoke, secrets carried on the wind that had not yet reached the ears of men. Perhaps the oracles themselves did not know the full meaning of their words. Some say they were touched by the gods, their souls linked to something beyond this world, a higher realm where fate could be glimpsed and shaped. Others whisper that the oracles were simply human, driven to trance by the earth's own secret exhalations, the sweet, heady vapors that clouded their minds and loosened their tongues. What then were they? Divine beings touched by Apollo's own breath, or mere mortals lost in the mist of their own uncertain minds? It is impossible to say for certain. What we know is this: their words were sacred, but so often shrouded in mystery. It is said that a king, standing on the precipice of a momentous decision, would approach the oracle, his heart heavy with the weight of his people's fate. And when he asked, "What is to come?" the oracle, eyes glazed with the sacred haze, would answer with words that seemed to float on the air, sometimes clear, sometimes as elusive as the wind. Perhaps the kings knew, even then, that the answers they sought were not simple. Perhaps they understood that no prophecy could truly bind the future. For in Delphi, the veil between what was and what might be was always shifting, always uncertain. Here, in this sacred space, nothing was ever fully revealed. Even the gods, with all their power, could not untangle the threads of fate completely. It was as though the answers were always just out of reach, suspended in that delicate breath between memory and moonlight, where the air itself seemed to hold its breath. The oracles of Delphi were the keepers of this uncertain space, the guardians of a mystery that could not be fully understood. Their visions were not mere glimpses of the future, but rather echoes of a deeper truth, a truth that would always slip through the fingers of those who sought to grasp it. And yet, those who came seeking answers never left empty-handed. For even in the silence, even in the unanswered riddles, there was something to be found, something ancient, something sacred. In the quiet of the chamber, where shadows play on the cracked stone, the faint sound of a breath can almost be heard, a lingering sigh that rises from deep within the earth itself. It is the breath of 1,000 oracles, of priests and pilgrims, of kings and beggars, all caught in the same endless search for meaning. And perhaps, in that breath, there is an answer, not to the questions they asked, but to the deeper question that lies hidden beneath all things. What is it that we truly seek? Perhaps it was never meant to be found. Perhaps the search itself was the answer. For in that sacred space, beneath the temple, where time seems to slow and the air thickens with memory, there is a profound truth to be grasped, not in the answers, but in the very act of seeking. As we leave the chamber, the air heavy with the scent of incense, we notice the ruins once again, the crumbling columns bathed on moonlight. They stand still and silent, as though waiting, their stone faces lost in contemplation. Beneath the weight of the stars, the earth seems to sigh, and the question, "What did the oracle hear before she spoke?" lingers in the air like a breath that has not yet been exhaled. The ruins grow quieter now, and the moon climbs higher in the sky. It casts a pale light on the broken stones, on the faded memories of a time long past. And as the night deepens, we realize that some truths are never meant to be spoken. They are carried on the winds of time, rising like smoke, curling up into the heavens, to be lost again in the sacred silence of the earth. And so we leave, the questions still unanswered, the breath of Delphi still hanging in the air, suspended between memory and moonlight. Perhaps, one day, we will return to this place, and in the quiet of the ruins, we will hear the oracle's voice once more. But for now, the truth remains just out of reach, a mystery that will always linger in the spaces between breaths, between dreams, between the past and the present. Perhaps some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. Perhaps the oracle's final breath still waits beneath the stone, a soft whisper, a promise, a mystery never meant to be solved. A glimmer stirs on the horizon, the faintest shimmer against the fading amber of the desert's edge. This is the last breath of the sun, golden, soft, fleeting. It was once the light of a city that gleamed as if born from the dust itself, the walls glowing as though touched by the hand of the divine. Akhetaten, the city of the horizon. In the evening quiet, the ruins of this place still echo with the whispers of a forgotten dream. Akhetaten was not built by the hands of ordinary men. No, this city rose from the soul of a pharaoh, Amenhotep IV, who later called himself Akhenaten. His vision was clear, a solitary gleam of intention, to create a place devoted not to the old gods, but to a single god, the Aten, the radiant sun. The air here once hummed with sacred purpose. But what becomes of a place born from a single vision, a dream that could not be shared? The question lingers softly, like a breath held too long. We step into this memory, walking through the wide avenues where broken columns lie half buried in sand, their shadows stretching long beneath the fading light. The wind sighs through the ruins, carrying the soft sound of distant echoes. Here, where the city's pulse once beat with the hopes of a new world, the silence now settles like dust upon the stone. Still, the reliefs remain, the solar disk of the Aten still clinging to the stone like a final breath of warmth, as though the light has never fully left. It is said that the sun here was not just a celestial body, but a living force, a god that illuminated all things, a light that gave the city its life and meaning. We wander through what was once a place of great beauty, the palace gardens, now collapsed into the endless drift of sand. Here, beneath the towering fig trees, we can almost hear the soft laughter of royal children playing in the dappled shadows, their steps light as the wind that stirs the sand. The priests once stood here, their faces lifted toward the sun, chanting to the Aten as it hovered low in the sky, casting its rays upon the earth. These gardens, now nothing more than a memory, were once vibrant with life, bathed in the golden light of a new faith, a new way of seeing the world. But as we drift further into the ruins, the air grows heavy with a quiet melancholy. The city was a place of great clarity, its faith rooted in the idea that the Aten was the only god, and all life must revolve around its radiance. And yet, in this clarity, there was darkness. For all its brilliance, the city was shrouded in secrecy, as though the light of the Aten itself could not shine in every corner of the world. The grand vision that Akhenaten had for his kingdom, a vision of unity under a single god, was not one that could be easily embraced by those who had known a different truth for so long. It is said that Akhenaten's reign, though full of radiant hope, was also marked by profound contradiction. The faith he championed was born in the light, but it cast shadows where none had been before. His devotion to the Aten was absolute, but his attempt to remake the sacred order of the world, to shift the very structure of belief, led his kingdom into turmoil. Priests whose lives had been intertwined with the worship of the old gods grew disillusioned. The power of the priests of Amun crumbled, and with it the stability of Egypt itself. Akhenaten's dream, like the city he built, faded too soon, leaving behind only fragments and unanswered questions. The wind moves through the crumbling streets, and we follow its whisper as it carries us deeper into the silence. The broken remnants of stone still stand, a testament to the faith that once soared high, like a prayer reaching for the heavens. In the distance, the temples dedicated to the Aten rise like forgotten sentinels, their walls once painted with scenes of life, their grandeur now faded into shadows. Here, in the stillness, we begin to sense the city's fragile beauty. Akhetaten was a place that could not endure, yet in its short life, it burned brighter than many kingdoms. Like a flame that flickers and dies, its light was sharp, intense, and yet so brief. Perhaps it was never meant to last. Perhaps Akhenaten, in his vision of the world remade, had created a moment in time, a breath of life that, once exhaled, could not return. The city was meant to rise, and then to fall, leaving behind only its story, like a dream that fades as the morning sun climbs higher. It is said that Akhenaten himself, after the fall of his kingdom, vanished into obscurity, leaving no clear legacy but the ruins of a city abandoned before its dust had cooled. And yet, even in its abandonment, Akhetaten holds something sacred. Its silence now speaks as loudly as any prophecy. The city, though forgotten by many, still holds its breath in the desert winds. Perhaps it waits for something, a return of the light, a rekindling of the dream. Perhaps, in the quiet, there is still hope for a dawn that will never come. As we stand on the edge of this ancient city, the sun slips behind the ridge of the desert, casting long shadows across the broken streets. The golden light fades, and Akhetaten is left in twilight, its once brilliant walls now bathed in soft hues of dusk. The wind stirs the sand, and for a moment it is as if the city dreams, as if it is alive again, if only in memory. In this moment, the city's secrets seem to drift just out of reach, suspended in the silence. Perhaps we are meant to leave them undisturbed, to let the city rest in its quiet slumber. For the dream of Akhetaten was never fully realized, but it lingers still, like a whisper carried on the wind. The faith that once blazed brightly now seems like a distant star, its light fading but never truly gone. The city sleeps, as it always has, beneath the desert's endless sky, and in its silence there is a peace that only time can offer. Perhaps Akhetaten's true legacy is not in what it achieved, but in the quiet space it created, a space where the past and the present, the light and the shadow, can dance together in harmony. Some places are meant to fade into the dust, but their stories are never truly lost. In the desert wind, in the fading light, Akhetaten remains, a city that dreamed in golden dusk, still waiting, still dreaming beneath the stars that have watched over it since time began. And so, as the last light slips from the horizon, we leave the ruins of Akhetaten behind, carrying with us only the sense that some dreams, even when they are never fully realized, leave behind something eternal. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, this truth of the city's rise and fall, but perhaps it is enough to know that it was once there, shimmering in the desert, its golden light never fully fading. Some truths, after all, are not meant to be held in the hand. They are meant to linger, like a dream, suspended in the silence of the earth, waiting for those who are willing to listen. A soft wind stirs the high mountain grasses, sending ripples across the plains, where the silence of the altiplano stretches endlessly toward the horizon. The air is thin here, as if the heavens themselves are closer, leaning gently against the earth. It is in this place, suspended between the wild beauty of the Andes and the endless sky, that we find the gate of the sun. The stone arch rises before us like a forgotten sentinel, its weathered surface etched with secrets. There is no rush, no urgency, only the soft, steady rhythm of our breath mingling with the mountain wind. We approach the gate with reverence, the shadows of the past brushing softly against our skin. A single carved face watches from the shadowed lintel above, its eyes both solemn and serene, as if waiting for something or someone to remember. The face is not human, but it carries the weight of something ancient, something eternal. Perhaps it is the face of a god, or perhaps it is the face of a forgotten king. Its expression is at once distant and knowing, as though it has seen the rise and fall of countless generations and still remains unchanged. As we stand before the gate, the question arises, soft as the wind, were these stones shaped for the living, or were they meant for the stars? The silence that answers is deep and profound, stretching across the vast expanse of time and space. The gate, with its solemn carvings and timeless presence, seems to beckon us toward a mystery that has never fully been unraveled. It is as if the stones themselves are listening, waiting, not for us, but for something far older, something written not in language, but in the stars. We step closer, tracing the intricate designs that adorn the arch. The carvings glow in the dim light of dusk, their meanings lost to time, yet still whispering in the quiet space between our thoughts. Winged figures drift in rows, their forms spiraling upward toward the heavens. Their delicate wings seem to flutter in the soft mountain air, as though they are poised to take flight, leaving this place behind. Stepped motifs wind around the gate's frame, echoing the movement of time itself, marking the passage of days, months, and years, like the slow turning of celestial bodies across the night sky. Each line, each curve, speaks of a forgotten world, a world where the movement of stars and the rhythm of the earth were inextricably linked. The air here feels thin enough to touch the heavens, as though the gateway was built not for mere mortals, but for those who could read the language of the stars. It is said that the builders of this mysterious arch were not only skilled craftsmen, but also stargazers, their knowledge woven into the very fabric of the stone. The gate, they believed, was a threshold, a bridge between the earthly realm and the celestial one. And yet, despite the beauty of the carvings, despite the precision of the measurements, no one knows for certain the true purpose of the gate. The wind shifts, carrying with it the faintest scent of earth and stone. We move through the ruins, our steps soft and deliberate, as though treading carefully in the presence of something sacred. The stories of the gate are as faded as the reliefs on its stones, stories of builders whose names have dissolved into the wind, of rituals carried out beneath a sky dense with constellations. Whispers tell us that the gate may have once marked the turning of the seasons, the birth of moons, or the passages of souls on their journey from life to death. Perhaps it was a place where priests and astronomers stood, watching the stars in quiet awe, aligning their rituals with the celestial movements that governed life and death. The gate, in its silence, may have been a tool of their sacred knowledge, a way to measure the heavens and bring the divine closer to the earth. As we continue our journey through the ruins, the mystery deepens. The emotions stirred by the gate are not easily named. There is a quiet wonder that fills the space between our breaths, a sense of awe at the sheer scale of the vision that brought this monument to life. What kind of people could have imagined such a structure? What kind of wisdom did they possess to carve this doorway between the earth and the stars? The more we reflect, the more the gate seems to become a symbol of lost, something that was never meant to be understood, but only to be felt. The gate stands now a threshold to mystery, a silent guardian of time's forgotten breath. No answers come, only questions, soft and elusive. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, this purpose that we seek. Perhaps the gate's true meaning is not in the knowledge it held, but in the silence it has kept for centuries. It is as though the stones themselves are alive, listening, waiting, not for us, but for something far older, something written not in language, but in the stars. We step closer, tracing the intricate designs that adorn the arch. The carvings glow in the dim light of dusk, their meanings lost to time, yet still whispering in the quiet space between our thoughts. Winged figures drift in rows, their forms spiraling upward toward the heavens. Their delicate wings seem to flutter in the soft mountain air, as though they are poised to take flight, leaving this place behind. Stepped motifs wind around the gate's frame, echoing the movement of time itself, marking the passage of days, months, and years, like the slow turning of celestial bodies across the night sky. Each line, each curve, speaks of a forgotten world, a world where the movement of stars and the rhythm of the earth were inextricably linked. The air here feels thin enough to touch the heavens, as though the gateway was built not for mere mortals, but for those who could read the language of the stars. It is said that the builders of this mysterious arch were not only skilled craftsmen, but also stargazers, their knowledge woven into the very fabric of the stone. The gate, they believed, was a threshold, a bridge between the earthly realm and the celestial one. And yet, despite the beauty of the carvings, despite the precision of the measurements, no one knows for certain the true purpose of the gate. The wind shifts, carrying with it the faintest scent of earth and stone. We move through the ruins, our steps soft and deliberate, as though treading carefully in the presence of something sacred. The stories of the gate are as faded as the reliefs on its stones, stories of builders whose names have dissolved into the wind, of rituals carried out beneath a sky dense with constellations. Whispers tell us that the gate may have once marked the turning of the seasons, the birth of moons, or the passages of souls on their journey from life to death. Perhaps it was a place where priests and astronomers stood, watching the stars in quiet awe, aligning their rituals with the celestial movements that governed life and death. The gate, in its silence, may have been a tool of their sacred knowledge, a way to measure the heavens and bring the divine closer to the earth. As we continue our journey through the ruins, the mystery deepens. The emotions stirred by the gate are not easily named. There is a quiet wonder that fills the space between our breaths, a sense of awe at the sheer scale of the vision that brought this monument to life. What kind of people could have imagined such a structure? What kind of wisdom did they possess to carve this doorway between the earth and the stars? The more we reflect, the more the gate seems to become a symbol of something lost, something that was never meant to be understood, but only to be felt. The gate stands now a threshold to mystery, a silent guardian of time's forgotten breath. No answers come, only questions, soft and elusive. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, this purpose that we seek. Perhaps the gate's true meaning is not in the knowledge it held, but in the silence it has kept for centuries. The wind whispers one last time, carrying the voices of the past, and as it fades into the night, we are left with the softest of thoughts. The gate still listens. And perhaps, one day, when we are ready, we will hear its answer. Until then, we leave this place behind, stepping softly through the grass, the night sky above us, and the gate's silent presence lingering in the air like a breath that has not yet been exhaled. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and the gate of the sun waits, always waiting to be heard. A faint ripple glimmers beneath the moonlight, the Yangtze stretching out like a silver ribbon through the mist, winding its way past cliffs that rise like the forgotten bones of a world long lost. The river, ancient and eternal, flows quietly, carrying with it stories that have settled into the earth like dust on stone. In the shadows of these towering cliffs, ancient coffins rest, their wooden bodies clinging to the sheer rock faces as though placed there by unseen hands. They are silent watchers, suspended in time, and their gaze, though fixed and still, carries a weight of questions that echo through the centuries. Why did a people place their dead in the sky above water? Why did they lift their ancestors so high, where the wind could whisper its secrets to them, and the river could carry their souls on its endless journey? The question lingers in the air, soft as the mist that swirls around the cliffside, mingling with the quiet flow of the river below. It is said that the hanging coffins of southern China were not just tombs, but sacred vessels, suspended between this world and the next, between earth and sky. And in this suspended space, they have held the secrets of a culture whose name is known only in fragments, lost tribes whose whispers fade into the river's current, carried away by time. We drift slowly on a boat, the gentle rocking of the water beneath us carrying us deeper into the misty canyons. The air is heavy with the scent of wet stone, and the silence is profound, as though the world itself is holding its breath. The cliff faces loom above us, jagged and ancient, and there, cradled in the crevices of the rock, are the coffins, simple wooden chambers that cling to the stone like the last remnants of a forgotten memory. Some are small, almost delicate, while others are larger, their wood darkened by age and water, each one a silent testament to the lives they once held. Their presence here, suspended above the river's flow, speaks of a belief that height was sacred, that the living could not reach heaven without first passing through the threshold of the sky. As we glide deeper into the canyon, the boat's slow progress feels like a dream, a journey through time itself. The mist rises around us, swirling in thick, gauzy veils that hide the edges of the world, and the coffins seem to float in and out of view, like ghosts caught between worlds. The silence is broken only by the soft lapping of water against the boat's hull and the faint creak of the ropes that hold the coffins in place. It is as though we have stepped into a place outside of time, a place where the past and present are not separated by years, but by the very fabric of the world itself. We imagine the craftsmen, their hands skilled in carving cedar trunks into hollow vessels that would hold the bodies of their ancestors. We imagine families gathering beneath these cliffs, their voices soft with reverence, whispering prayers into the hollow dark, prayers for those who had passed and for those who would one day follow. The ropes that swayed in the wind, gently raising the coffins toward the heavens, carried with them the hopes and fears of an entire people. What did they believe, we wonder, as they placed their loved ones in these fragile vessels, suspending them between earth and sky? What did they hope to find? What truth did they seek in this act of ritual, this journey into the unknown? The air seems to thicken with myth, the mist swirling into shapes that seem to flicker and fade as we move through the canyon. Spirits, perhaps, soaring upward, their forms made of the same mist and water that surround us. The cliff faces act as gates, thresholds between worlds, where the living and the dead meet, where ancestors guide the boats of the living through the dark, quiet night. Perhaps the river itself was thought to carry the souls of the departed, its current pulling them from this world into the next, toward a distant shore where they could be reunited with their ancestors. In the quiet, we can almost hear the faint murmur of voices, the sound of ancestors speaking in a language older than the river itself, older than the stone beneath our feet. There is no certainty here, only mystery, the kind of mystery that lives in the spaces between the known and the unknown, between life and death. History offers us only shadows, fragments of truth lost in the mist. The people who built these tombs, who placed their dead in the sky, are gone now, their names dissolved in the river's eternal flow. And yet, the coffins remain, silent, steadfast, suspended in time. We float onward, the boat drifting quietly through the canyon's embrace, the mist thickening around us. The coffins loom above, their shapes softened by the fog, and for a moment, it is as if they are no longer just objects, but living things, watching, waiting. The river beneath us widens, its current growing stronger, as if the path is opening before us, leading us towards some distant place where the answers to these mysteries may lie. The emotional arc of this journey is one of awe, quiet, reverent awe. We imagine the generations who gazed upward, their eyes following the slow movement of the coffins as they swayed in the wind, suspended between earth and sky. They did not ask questions in the way we do, did not seek to unravel the mystery of the coffin's purpose. No, for them, the coffins were not meant to be understood, only felt as part of a larger story, a story that reached across generations, across time itself. They were guardians of memory, these coffins, suspended in the air like delicate threads between the living and the dead. And as the boat drifts silently through the mist, we feel the weight of the past, a presence that lingers, as though the ancestors are still watching, still keeping watch over the land and the river. The cliff faces loom like silent sentinels, holding their secrets close, and the coffins, now distant, still hover above the water. They have become part of the land, part of the river, part of the eternal dance between life and death. And in the distance, the river stretches on, its silver surface quiet, unbroken, as though it too remembers, carrying with it the dream of an emperor, the dream of a people who believed that height was a sacred threshold, a path that led the living and the dead toward the stars. The final moments of this journey are soft and still. The river widens into a quiet expanse, the mist settling into the night. The moon rises, its light catching the silver surface of the water, and for a moment, the world seems to hold its breath. Perhaps we will never fully understand the meaning of the hanging coffins, nor the people who placed their dead in the sky. Perhaps the river, like the cliffs, holds its mysteries close, never meant to be fully unraveled. And perhaps that is enough. For in the quiet of the night, in the silver stillness of the river, we are left with the sense that the ancestors still keep watch, suspended in eternal dusk, guardians of a dream, forever carried by the water, forever held in the cliffs. Perhaps it was never meant to be found. Perhaps the answers will always remain just beyond our reach, carried away like a whisper on the wind, carried down the river, where memory fades into silence. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and perhaps in that echo we will hear the call of the river that carries the emperor's dream, the dream of those who came before us, still flowing, still watching, still waiting. At the edge of the Nile, beneath a velvet sky, there rises a sanctuary carved from the very darkness of time itself. This is Dendera, a temple to Hathor, goddess of love, music, and the stars. The temple stands still, its stones whispering secrets from the ancient world, waiting for the quiet hours of night to call them to life. Under the weight of the endless Egyptian sky, the temple's outline is sharp against the horizon, its walls etched in silence, its chambers heavy with forgotten prayers. As we approach, a faint flicker of light breaks the night's stillness, a torch held low, casting shadows that dance on ancient blue paint. The flames tremble, casting their glow over the ceiling, where the stars bloom, suspended in an eternal sky. The famous zodiac of Dendera is revealed, its circular pattern stretching across the stone like a cosmic wheel, its symbols carved with such precision that even now they seem to pulse with life. The torchlight trembles as if touched by the very stars themselves, and a quiet question rises in the air. What melodies once stirred these constellations to life? The question lingers, soft as the wind, and we step closer into the temple's embrace. Here, time folds gently upon itself, as if the temple were a living thing, breathing in the darkness of the night. The walls hum with the echoes of the past, and the air is heavy with a stillness that speaks of ancient rituals performed long before our eyes were ever meant to see. The temple's inner sanctuaries are shadowed, yet the hieroglyphs shimmer softly in the torchlight, like quiet songs etched into stone. Each curve of the symbols a note in a sacred hymn, each line a trace of a prayer whispered to the stars. As we wander deeper into the heart of the temple, the air grows thick with the scent of incense, its smoke curling upward in delicate spirals, seeking the moon's embrace. We imagine the priests of Hathor, their hands raised in reverence, their voices blending with the music of the stars. They watched the heavens with deep eyes, decoding a cosmic heartbeat as it echoed across the sky. It is said that the night, in all its stillness, was where the divine was closest, where time itself seemed to stand still, and the rhythm of the universe could be felt in every breath, in every flicker of the torchlight. In the quiet chambers of the temple, we hear the soft rustle of papyrus as the astronomer priests recorded the movements of the stars, their delicate fingers tracing the pathways of the constellations. The temple itself becomes a sacred instrument, tuned to the music of the heavens, each stone, each column vibrating with the ancient song of the universe. The walls seem to listen, as though they too are waiting for the moment when the night is deep enough to hear the melodies of the stars. Here, in the dim light of the temple sanctuaries, myths unfold like ancient scrolls. Hathor, the goddess of joy and music, danced upon the earth, and her movements brought harmony to creation itself. It is said that her music soothed the hearts of men, and her laughter could quiet the storms that raged across the land. She was the goddess who guided souls into the afterlife, her soft voice carrying them toward the stars, where they would find peace among the constellations. The stars themselves were her instruments, each one playing its own part in the great cosmic symphony that echoed through the universe. But beneath the beauty of this sacred place, there lies a contradiction, one that has puzzled scholars and seekers for centuries. The zodiac, so perfectly preserved in stone, is both a map of the heavens and a mystery that cannot be fully unraveled. Was it a guide to the stars, a symbol of divine order, or a memory of something older, something lost to time, a knowledge older than the dynasties of Egypt themselves? Some believe that the priests of Hathor were not only masters of music, but of the stars themselves, able to read the heavens as though they were a sacred text, decoding its meanings with a wisdom passed down through forgotten ages. And so we drift through the temple's shadowed halls, our footsteps soft on the stone floors. We move through the ancient spaces as though walking through time itself, the past and present intertwining like the spirals of incense smoke that rise toward the high ceilings. The stillness around us is almost sacred, a quiet that seems to hold all the mysteries of the universe within it. We are carried not by the weight of history, but by the weight of the temple itself, as though it is alive, breathing with the rhythm of the stars. The emotional journey takes us deeper into the temple, into the sacred space where the line between the earthly and the divine seems to blur. Here, beneath the ceiling marked with constellations, we feel the quiet hum of something greater than ourselves. It is as if the temple is not simply a building, but a living creature, one that is part of the cosmic dance, a place where the gods and the stars meet, where the music of the universe plays softly in the dark. Perhaps, like the zodiac itself, the temple's true meaning is elusive. Perhaps it was never meant to be fully understood, but only to be experienced, felt in the silence of the night and the stillness of the stones. For some, music can only be heard when the night is deep enough to listen, when the world around us fades into silence and the universe begins to speak in whispers. As the moments pass, the temple ceiling seems to melt into the darkness, the stars folding themselves away like flowers closing at the end of the day. The incense has burned low, and the quiet has grown deeper, heavier, as though the temple itself is retreating into sleep, carrying its mysteries with it. We are left standing in the dark, our breath slow, our hearts quiet. In this place, we sense the truth. Some music is not meant to be understood, only to be felt, to be lived in the quiet moments when the world fades away and we are left with nothing but the echo of the stars. In the fading light, the temple stands still, its beauty softened by the night. It is a place that wakes only when the sky is dark enough to hear its song, a song that we can only listen to if we are still enough, quiet enough to hear it. Perhaps, like the zodiac itself, The purpose of the temple, like the music of the stars, is simply to be. We leave the temple behind, our hearts lifted by the quiet grace of the night, knowing that the stars are still there, waiting, listening, marking time with their slow, steady rhythm. And the temple, though empty of sound, still carries its song, a melody that can only be heard when the night is deep enough to listen. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved, only felt. And the Temple of Hathor, beneath the velvet sky, remains a sacred space where the music of the heavens plays on, ever present, ever quiet, forever waiting for those who are ready to listen. In the stillness of the evening, drifting embers catch the last breath of daylight, glowing faintly in the cool, shifting air. The soft glow carries a distant echo, a forgotten flame. Far from the bustle of time, we find ourselves walking along the quiet shore of the ancient Anatolian lands, the earth beneath our feet crumbling slowly with the weight of centuries. The landscape stretches wide and solemn, marked by a silence that has watched over forgotten histories. Ahead, the remnants of Hattusa rise from the earth, once a bustling city, an empire's heart, now a whispering ruin. This place, this land, is where memory meets dust. We draw closer to the ruins, where the last vestiges of Hattusa lie entangled with the earth, veiled in mist and shadow. It is here, within the silence, that we pause and ask, what knowledge survives when fire becomes memory? The question lingers in the cool air, like smoke that has not yet been fully exhaled. What stories have been lost to the flames? What words were once carved into clay, pressed by the careful hands of scribes, and now rest forever beneath the weight of time? The ruins of Hattusa hold answers, but not in words that are easily understood. They whisper instead, soft, sacred breaths rising from ash, cradled by the earth. We step through the remains of what was once a great archive, where the scribes of this long-forgotten empire pressed reeds into wet clay, marking treaties, dreams, and divine omens with the weight of their words. Each tablet tells a story, though its voice is not so easily heard. Some believe these inscriptions were meant to endure, a record of all that was sacred, all that was feared. Yet, in the quiet surrender of time, we now find that these clay tablets became voices sealed by fire, memories preserved not by design, but by the quiet mercy of destruction. We drift through the still air, the broken walls of this ancient library stretching out before us like open books. The temple to knowledge that once stood here was filled with the deep echoes of ritual texts, star charts, and hymns. These were no simple writings. They were the heartbeat of an empire, prayers to gods who no longer have worshippers, ceremonial instructions left behind like forgotten echoes, and the fates of unknown queens captured in letters whose names have dissolved into the winds. The texts of this lost civilization, burned by an accidental fire, have endured through time, carrying their stories like the faintest embers, glowing softly in the dark. The light shifts as we continue deeper into the ruins. The air grows cooler, and the breeze carries the scent of earth and ash, stirring memories that are not our own. The tablets lie scattered among the stones, some still half buried in the dust. We imagine the great library once bustling with scribes, their fingers light on the reeds, carefully transcribing the thoughts of a people who believed their wisdom would echo through time. Yet, in the moment of destruction, fire both devoured and preserved. It is a contradiction that lingers in the shadows. Fire, a tool of destruction, yet also a merciful keeper of what could have been lost forever. We drift through the still air, the broken walls of this ancient library stretching out before us like open books. The temple to knowledge that once stood here was filled with the deep echoes of ritual texts, star charts, and hymns. These were no simple writings. They were the heartbeat of an empire. prayers to gods who no longer have worshippers, ceremonial instructions left behind like forgotten echoes, and the fates of unknown queens captured in letters whose names have dissolved into the winds. The texts of this lost civilization, burned by an accidental fire, have endured through time, carrying their stories like the faintest embers, glowing softly in the dark. The light shifts as we continue deeper into the ruins. The air grows cooler, and the breeze carries the scent of earth and ash, stirring memories that are not our own. The tablets lie scattered among the stones, some still half buried in the dust. We imagine the great library once bustling with scribes, their fingers light on the reeds, carefully transcribing the thoughts of a people who believed their wisdom would echo through time. Yet, in the moment of destruction, fire both devoured and preserved. It is a contradiction that lingers in the shadows. Fire, a tool of destruction, yet also a merciful keeper of what could have been lost forever. We drift through the still air, the broken walls of this ancient library stretching out before us like open books. The temple to knowledge that once stood here was filled with the deep echoes of ritual texts, star charts, and hymns. These were no simple writings. They were the heartbeat of an empire, prayers to gods who no longer have worshippers, ceremonial instructions left behind like forgotten echoes, and the fates of unknown queens captured in letters whose names have dissolved into the winds. The texts of this lost civilization, burned by an accidental fire, have endured through time, carrying their stories like the faintest embers, glowing softly in the dark. The light shifts as we continue deeper into the ruins. The air grows cooler, and the breeze carries the scent of earth and ash, stirring memories that are not our own. The tablets lie scattered among the stones, some still half buried in the dust. We imagine the great library once bustling with scribes, their fingers light on the reeds, carefully transcribing the thoughts of a people who believed their wisdom would echo through time. Yet, in the moment of destruction, fire both devoured and preserved. It is a contradiction that lingers in the shadows. Fire, a tool of destruction, yet also a merciful keeper of what could have been lost forever. In the heart of the ruin, beneath the darkened sky, we find ourselves standing in the shadow of a broken wall. A soft breeze carries the faintest sound, like a page turning in the quiet dark. The wind whispers through the tall grasses, their blades swaying like the pages of ancient scrolls being read once again by the gods. The memory of the library stirs in the silence, the soft breath of its stories rising like smoke into the night. The narratives remain, though many of them are lost to time. Fragments of the Illuyanka myth, the legendary serpent defeated by a god, a reminder of a kingdom long forgotten. Letters addressed to queens whose faces we will never know. All of it rests, unspoken, beneath the rubble of Hattusa, waiting. Perhaps it was never meant to be fully understood, these stories, these echoes. Perhaps the true gift of the library lies not in the preservation of the written word, but in the preservation of the breath, the spirit that carries those stories from one age to the next. The voices do not disappear. They linger in the earth, in the ruins, in the soft rustle of the wind, waiting for us to listen, to remember. For as long as the memory of this place remains, so too will the knowledge it carried. Some truths are never truly lost, but instead find their way into the silence, where we must seek them with patient hearts. We sit in the quiet of the evening, the ruins spread before us like the remnants of a forgotten dream. The stars above, those silent witnesses, mark the passing of time in their steady march across the heavens. It is said that the stars, like the ashes of the fire, carry stories of the past. The winds whisper these stories, but only when we are still enough to listen, quiet enough to hear. The night falls deeper around us, and we feel the presence of the library once again, not as a physical space, but as a lingering spirit. The fire that consumed it may have taken its walls, its knowledge, but it could not take its soul. Somewhere, buried in the earth, the library still whispers. Perhaps its voice will never fully be heard, but it lingers, a faint, soft murmur that rises from the dust carried on the breath of the wind. Its stories, though scattered and broken, are still here, waiting. We carry them with us now, etched not in clay, but in the quiet space between words. Perhaps the temple of knowledge is not gone, but simply waiting for the right moment to speak. The wind, like an ancient page, turns softly. The earth holds its breath, and in the stillness, we listen. Not for answers, but for the echo of something ancient, something that never truly fades. Perhaps it was never meant to be fully found, the meaning of these stories, the full extent of this lost library's wisdom. Perhaps it is enough to know that the memory remains, like a flame carried on the breeze. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. The library whispers still, its breath rising softly from the ashes, reminding us that knowledge is not always lost. It is simply waiting for the right moment to be remembered. And so we sit beneath the stars and the quiet ruins, listening to the wind, feeling the pulse of time in the soft rustle of the grasses. We leave with the sense that the library has not truly gone. It has only folded itself into the silence, into the very air that surrounds us. And with it, its stories live on, gently carried by the earth, where memory never fully fades. Under a canopy of ancient branches, a forgotten road glimmers faintly, woven through the soft, damp earth. The night is quiet, wrapped in the soft embrace of shadow, and the air is thick with the scent of moss, cedar, and something older, something beyond time. This is the Kumano-Kodo, Japan's ancient pilgrimage path, where countless footsteps have blurred the line between the living and the dead, where the journey itself is more important than any destination. It is said that this path, though hidden by the forest's deep green veil, carries the weight of centuries, a road traveled not just by emperors, but by monks, wanderers, and seekers of peace. It is a road that remembers, a road that whispers prayers into the night. We take our first step into the soft moss, and a quiet question rises in the air, like the rustle of leaves. What prayers linger in places where countless footsteps have blurred time? This path is not merely a way to travel from one place to another. It is a place unto itself, a living thread woven into the sacred fabric of Japan. With each footfall, the earth below us seems to hold its breath, remembering those who walked here before us, those whose names have been lost to the wind, whose prayers have settled into the soil. We walk in silence, our footsteps light on the moss-covered stones that line the trail, their surfaces weathered smooth by centuries of reverence. The trees tower above us, their trunks rising like silent pillars of a forgotten shrine, their branches reaching upward in an eternal dance with the moon. Lanterns flicker softly along the path, their warm glow casting delicate shadows that stretch and bend with the rhythm of the wind. These lanterns, once placed by pilgrims, now seem to breathe with the same quiet life as the trees themselves. They light the way, but they also guard the path, as if they too have grown old, carrying the stories of those who have passed by. As we walk deeper into the forest, the path begins to reveal itself not just as a physical journey, but as something spiritual, a space where history and spirit meet. We feel the weight of the air, thick with the presence of the past, as though the deities of Shinto and Buddhism still watch over this sacred ground. It is said that the mountains themselves are alive with spirits, and that the rivers and waterfalls are the homes of deities. The air hums with the distant sound of a waterfall, and for a moment we imagine the gods, their forms veiled in mist, residing in the very water we hear. The path is sacred not just for the human pilgrims who tread it, but for the spirits who dwell within the trees, the rocks, and the flowing water. We drift between the echoes of Shinto and Buddhist traditions, the two intertwined here like the branches of the trees above. Some believe that the monks, who have walked this path for centuries, still chant sutras in the moonlit forest, their voices rising softly on the wind, blending with the whispers of the trees. The monks, their robes rustling softly as they walk, carry the weight of a timeless truth, that the journey itself is the answer, that in the quiet of the forest, the heart can be soothed, the soul healed. For it is on this path, beneath the sacred trees, that the weary find peace and the lost find direction. The emotional arc of this journey is not one of revelation. As we walk, we feel the weight of life's burdens, the tiredness of the body, the weariness of the mind, slowly fading. With each step, the path seems to hold us, offering solace. The forest hums with a deep, ancient energy that speaks not in words, but in feelings, soft, quiet assurances that everything is as it should be. Here, beneath the stars, the journey becomes a meditation, each step a prayer, and though no answers come, we find ourselves lightened, our hearts lifting with the rhythm of the earth, the rhythm of the trees, the rhythm of time. The night deepens around us, and the path narrows, winding between ancient cedars and moss-covered stones. As we move further along, myths begin to emerge from the shadows, like fireflies flickering softly in the dark. Whispers of mountain spirits who guide the pilgrims through the night brush against us like a cool breeze. These spirits, some say, live within the trees, their presence felt in the way the wind moves through the branches. They are guardians of the path, keepers of the sacred silence, offering their guidance to those who are ready to receive it. The path is not only a journey of the body, but of the spirit. And as we walk, we begin to sense that there are hidden gates along the way, gates that only open when the moon is at the right phase, when the time is right, and when the heart is ready to receive it. Yet, even as these mysteries unfold before us, the path is not leading us to answers, but to a deeper stillness. The deeper we travel, the quieter the world becomes, and the more we realize that this road is not meant to be a journey towards something, but rather a journey into something, a journey into the heart of silence, into the embrace of the sacred trees, into the ancient pulse of the earth itself. Here, in this stillness, we are not seeking something to find. We are simply being in the presence of something timeless, something beyond the reach of words. At last, we reach the heart of the path, the end of the road, a quiet shrine nestled in the shadows of the trees. It is small, simple, almost hidden, but there is a peace about it, a peace that seeps into the very air. A single bell rings softly in the night, its sound rippling through the trees like a soft sigh, fading slowly into the quiet. The sound is not loud, but it carries with it a weight, a resonance that seems to echo in the very earth beneath our feet. The bell's tone dissolves into the night, into the soft rustle of the leaves, and for a moment the entire world seems to exhale. We sit in the shadow of the shrine, beneath the ancient trees, as the night deepens and the moon rises higher in the sky. The road behind us seems to fade, the path becoming one with the forest, one with the land, one with the silence. Perhaps the path itself is the prayer, the steps taken, a breath drawn in rhythm with the ancient forest, the heart lifted in reverence not for any specific goal, but for the sacredness of the journey. Every step, every breath becomes part of the eternal song, part of the living prayer that has been sung for centuries along this road. Some paths are not meant to lead us to the answers we seek. Perhaps the Kumano Kodo is one such path, a road that does not promise revelation, but offers only the gift of quiet solitude, of release, and of peace. We leave the shrine behind, but the stillness remains with us, held in our hearts like a quiet bell. And as the road behind us fades into mist, we are left with the sense that we have walked not towards something, but into something. into the timeless embrace of the earth, the trees, and the moon. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, this secret, this understanding. Perhaps the only truth here is the peace found in the journey itself. For some truths, like the silence of the sacred trees, can only be felt and only heard when the night is deep enough to listen. A horizon of silver waves unfurls gently before us, the sea stretching toward the edge of the earth, endless and serene. In the distance, a faint silhouette rises, the remnants of Yonaguni's submerged terraces, just visible beneath the water's surface. The sight is haunting, an apparition in the deep, carried by the tides of time. The water laps against the stone, as though it too is remembering, holding a secret beneath its cool embrace. A soft question rises with the tide. Did a civilization sink into the sea, or are these only the dreams of stone? We drift beneath the surface of these imaginary waters, where the world feels suspended, neither here nor there, a place where memory and myth intertwine. The terraces appear like steps leading into a forgotten underworld, their smooth walls and sharp angles cutting through the shifting blue, as though they were once built by human hands, yet now lost to the vastness of the ocean. The structures stretch below us, their outlines soft but definite, like the whispers of an ancient dream. The ocean, silent and knowing, cradles these remnants in its depths. In the distance, the surface of the sea reflects the silver light of a distant moon, casting pale, ghostly rays upon the stone. We glide slowly, as though suspended in time itself, feeling the weight of a forgotten world pressing gently against our hearts. There is serenity here, yet with it an uncertainty that lingers like a soft fog. Was this place truly the work of a lost civilization, or has the sea, in its infinite patience, carved these shapes over millennia? Some say the terraces were built by an ancient people whose name has faded like dust carried on the wind. Others believe that nature herself, in a gentle act of artistry, shaped these structures long before any human gaze had rested upon them. The structures stretch below us, their outlines soft but definite, like the whispers of an ancient dream. The ocean, silent and knowing, cradles these remnants in its depths. In the distance, the surface of the sea reflects the silver light of a distant moon, casting pale, ghostly rays upon the stone. We glide slowly, as though suspended in time itself, feeling the weight of a forgotten world pressing gently against our hearts. There is serenity here, yet with it an uncertainty that lingers like a soft fog. Was this place truly the work of a lost civilization, or has the sea, in its infinite patience, carved these shapes over millennia? Some say the terraces were built by an ancient people whose name has faded like dust carried on the wind. Others believe that nature herself, in a gentle act of artistry, shaped these structures long before any human gaze had rested upon them. The narrative of this submerged kingdom is one that drifts softly between possibilities, like a gentle current beneath the surface. Divers have spoken of carved chambers, deep and echoing, filled with the secrets of a people whose stories were swallowed by the waves. Geologists have murmured of natural forces, of tectonic shifts and underwater currents that may have shaped the terraces over time. And legends, those ancient songs of memory, speak of an island kingdom lost long ago, swallowed by the ocean's endless embrace, its people disappearing beneath the waters in a great, mysterious silence. Yet here, beneath the water's surface, the terraces remain, a silent testament to a time long past. Perhaps the answers to these questions lie beneath the shifting tides, waiting for the ocean to share its secret, Or, perhaps, as some believe, it is simply a riddle without an answer, a mystery meant to rest forever in the deep. As we glide through this submerged world, the silence grows deeper. The only sound is the gentle lapping of water against stone, a rhythm that feels both ancient and eternal. We imagine the ancient rituals that may have taken place on these platforms, now claimed by fish and coral. Torches flickering in the dark, their flames casting dancing shadows across the carved walls, as priests and worshippers gathered in reverence. Perhaps the ocean once sang with the voices of those who called this place home, their chants rising on the cool night air, their prayers offered to the gods who dwelt beneath the waves. The waters now carry these echoes, transformed into the language of the sea. We picture storms rolling across the Pacific, vast and unforgiving, each wave erasing memories with a soft, relentless caress. With each passing tide, the island kingdom, if it ever existed, fades further from our reach. What once a living, breathing world becomes something else, a shadow beneath the waves, lost in the eternal dance of water and time. The emotional arc of this journey shifts, moving from quiet wonder at the scale and beauty of the terraces to a meditative acceptance of not knowing. Perhaps it is not the answers that matter, but the quiet peace that comes with simply being in this place, with feeling the weight of its history, the deep presence of its silence. As the waters grow darker, we rise slowly to the surface, the moonlit world above us now filling the sky. The terraces below begin to disappear into the shadow of the sea, their shakes softening as the ocean reclaims them. For a moment, we are left with the sense that the kingdom, whatever it was, has found its peace, lying undisturbed beneath the calm surface. The moonlight touches the water, casting a faint glow over the place where the terraces once stood, as though the ocean itself is offering a final quiet tribute to what was lost. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, this ancient kingdom, or perhaps it is content never to rise again. Some truths, it seems, rest peacefully in their submerged silence, waiting for the world to let them sleep. They are carried on the tides, moving softly with the rhythm of the earth, echoing only in the quietest of moments. The terraces, like forgotten dreams, slip beneath the waves, their stories fading into the depths of the ocean, where they remain untouched by time. The journey ends not with an answer, but with a feeling, a quiet, lingering sense that some things are meant to be hidden, preserved not in the records of men, but in the deep places of the world. In the silence beneath the waters, the kingdom sleeps, its memory carried softly by the sea, never to be fully known, but always present, like a whisper carried on the wind. Some stories, it is said, are not meant to be told, only felt. Perhaps this kingdom, this submerged city, was one such story. As the moonlight fades into the soft rhythm of the ocean, we are left with the feeling that the ocean, like the past, keeps its secrets well. And perhaps that is enough. The ocean's depths remain, a sanctuary for what was, for what might have been, and for what will never be fully known. Some things, it seems, are not meant to rise from the depths. They are meant to rest in their place, quietly, eternally. Perhaps the ocean is not hiding the truth, but offering it in a different way, not in answers, in silence. And so we leave the submerged terraces behind, their shapes fading into the night, knowing that some truths are meant to remain just beneath the surface. Perhaps they are waiting for us to listen, or perhaps they are content to rest in peace, content to be a whisper on the wind, a memory carried by the tide. The kingdom is gone, but the ocean remains, eternal, vast, and full of stories, quietly waiting to be heard when the time is right. The dawn breaks gently over the Anatolian hills, casting a soft glow across the land. The earth stirs beneath the quiet light, and for a moment the world seems to hold its breath. The sun's rays touch the ancient stones of Göbekli Tepe, illuminating the enigmatic pillars that stand as silent sentinels against the passage of time. These stones, weathered by millennia, catch the first light of day, their surfaces faintly glowing with a secret that seems as old as the earth itself. A question rises with the morning air, delicate as a whisper. Who carved these stones when the world was still young? The question lingers, softly, in the space between the waking world and the realm of forgotten dreams. We step closer, moving through the sacred silence of this ancient site, where the earth hums with the pulse of a time long past. The circular enclosures of Göbekli Tepe stand before us, their T-shaped monoliths towering like guardians of a forgotten ritual. The stones, large and imposing, carry with them an aura of mystery, as though they hold a secret too profound to be understood, yet too ancient to be ignored. Their surfaces are etched with symbols: foxes, cranes, serpents, creatures that coil and twist across the stone, their forms both familiar and strange. These are not mere carvings, but living patterns, filled with meaning that drifts like mist between myth and memory. It is said that these symbols, so intricately carved, carry the stories of people who lived long before villages were born, long before agriculture took root, long before the stories we know began to take shape. As we walk through the enclosures, the stones seem to breathe with an ancient energy, a rhythm that beats beneath the silence. The pillars stand tall, their shadows stretching long as the sun rises higher, casting patterns on the earth that seem to shift with each passing moment. The site feels alive, not in the way that the modern world pulses with activity, but in a deeper, quieter sense, as though these stones, though weathered and worn, remember something, something that cannot be touched but can only be felt. Beneath the stillness, we can almost hear the hum of time, a vibration that carries the echoes of the first people who gathered here. Whispers tell us that Göbekli Tepe was not a place of everyday life, but a sanctuary, a space where the early humans came to perform rituals, to offer their songs or silence to forces they could not yet name. We imagine them beneath the starlit sky, gathering around these great stones, not yet bound by words, but instead by the rhythms of the earth and the sky. Their voices, perhaps, were soft, carried on the wind, reaching toward the stars, offering prayers to gods they could not see but knew were there. In this sacred space, they would have felt the presence of something larger than themselves, a pulse of the earth, a beat of the heavens, a thread that connected them to the mysteries of the universe. The emotional journey moves gently, flowing from curiosity into something deeper, something that stirs within the soul. As we stand in the shadow of the stones, we feel a deep, ancient awe. It is as though we are standing at the very threshold of humanity's earliest dreams. These stones, carved long before the written word, carry meaning that goes beyond understanding, beyond language itself. They were not shaped by hands that sought to leave a record of their deeds, but by hands that sought to touch something beyond the physical world, to channel the energy of the earth and sky into stone. In their simplicity, in their quiet grandeur, these monoliths were the first carriers of meaning, long before words were spoken, long before stories were written. Göbekli Tepe becomes, in this moment, a sanctuary of first intentions, a place where stone, long before the ink of the written word, carried the weight of human thought and spiritual yearning. Here, in the shadow of these towering pillars, we feel the heartbeat of the earliest humans, their hopes and fears, their desire to connect with the divine, their need to understand their place in the world. They gathered here not to celebrate what they had achieved, but to seek something greater, a connection to the forces of nature, to the stars, to the silence between the worlds. Perhaps they saw the stars not as distant suns, but as the eyes of gods watching over them, guiding them through the dark. In this sacred space, they would have felt the presence of something larger than themselves, a pulse of the earth, a beat of the heavens, a thread that connected them to the mysteries of the universe. The emotional journey moves gently, flowing from curiosity into something deeper, something that stirs within the soul. As we stand in the shadow of the stones, we feel a deep, ancient awe. It is as though we are standing at the very threshold of humanity's earliest dreams. These stones, carved long before the written word, carry meaning that goes beyond understanding, beyond language itself. They were not shaped by hands that sought to leave a record of their deeds, but by hands that sought to touch something beyond the physical world, to channel the energy of the earth and sky into stone. In their simplicity, in their quiet grandeur, these monoliths were the first carriers of meaning, long before words were spoken, long before stories were written. Göbekli Tepe becomes, in this moment, a sanctuary of first intentions, a place where stone, long before the ink of the written word, carried the weight of human thought and spiritual yearning. Here, in the shadow of these towering pillars, we feel the heartbeat of the earliest humans, their hopes and fears, their desire to connect with the divine, their need to understand their place in the world. They gathered here, not to celebrate what they had achieved, but to seek something greater, a connection to the forces of nature, to the stars, to the silence between the worlds. Perhaps they saw the stars not as distant suns, but as the eyes of gods watching over them, guiding them through the dark. In this sacred space, they would have felt the presence of something larger than themselves, a pulse of the earth, a beat of the heavens, a thread that connected them to the mysteries of the universe. The emotional journey moves gently, flowing from curiosity into something deeper, something that stirs within the soul. As we stand in the shadow of the stones, we feel a deep, ancient awe. It is as though we are standing at the very threshold of humanity's earliest dreams. These stones, carved long before the written word, carry meaning that goes beyond understanding, beyond language itself. They were not shaped by hands that sought to leave a record of their deeds, but by hands that sought to touch something beyond the physical world, to channel the energy of the earth and sky into stone. In their simplicity, in their quiet grandeur, these monoliths were the first carriers of meaning, long before words were spoken, long before stories were written. Göbekli Tepe becomes, in this moment, a sanctuary of first intentions, a place where stone, long before the ink of the written word, carried the weight of human thought and spiritual yearning. Here, in the shadow of these towering pillars, we feel the heartbeat of the earliest humans, their hopes and fears, their desire to connect with the divine, their need to understand their place in the world. They gathered here, not to celebrate what they had achieved, but to seek something greater, a connection to the forces of nature, to the stars, to the silence between the worlds. Perhaps they saw the stars not as distant suns, but as the eyes of gods, watching over them, guiding them through the dark. As we stand there, beneath the ancient stones, the sun climbs higher, bathing the sight in light. The shadows of the pillars stretch long and thin across the ground, casting a sense of protection over the land. The stones, though silent, seem to offer a quiet embrace, as though they are watching over us, as they have watched over this place for thousands of years. There is a warmth here, a sense of peace that settles over us, as though the very earth is holding us close, reminding us that we are part of something far greater than ourselves. These stones, in their stillness, have borne witness to the beginning of time, to the first sparks of human thought, to the first questions ever asked about the world and the divine. The emotional arc of this journey, this silent communion with the stones, leads us toward a gentle reflection. Perhaps, as we leave Göbekli Tepe behind, we are not meant to find answers to the questions it raises.
Perhaps the true gift of this place lies not in the knowledge it holds, but in the stillness it offers. A stillness that invites us to sit quietly, to feel the pulse of the earth beneath our feet, to feel the heartbeat of humanity's earliest dreams. For in this sacred silence, we sense that some things are not meant to be known, but simply to be felt, experienced in the quiet spaces between breath, between time, between memory. As the sun climbs higher and the shadows of the pillars stretch long across the earth, we leave Göbekli Tepe with a soft, lingering feeling. The stones, though silent, still carry their message. They carry the memory of the first dawn, the first.
A pale wind sweeps across the Valley of the Kings, carrying sand like drifting memories, swirling in endless circles that seem to erase the past with every soft gust. The air is heavy with silence, the kind of silence that stretches across centuries, allowing only whispers to rise, brief and fleeting, before they are carried away again. The valley, bathed in the soft light of an overcast sky, holds its secrets close, as it always has. This is a place where the earth itself has become a tomb, a sacred burial ground for kings, queens, and those who once ruled in the name of the gods. But amid these tombs, one name remains elusive, a queen whose beauty was known to all, yet whose resting place remains a mystery beneath the desert's ever-shifting sands. A single question rises softly from the stillness. Where does a vanished queen sleep when even her tomb refuses to speak? The winds stir again, as if in response, the question lingering in the air like the faintest echo of a forgotten dream. We begin our journey following the faint trail of Queen Nefertiti, the queen whose name is spoken in hushed reverence, whose face once graced the halls of power, but whose final resting place has eluded discovery for centuries. Her beauty is a memory, preserved in statues and carvings, but her body, her tomb, remains hidden beneath the folds of time and sand. The path before us is winding, and as we move through the narrow wadis and limestone cliffs that mark the entrance to the valley, we can feel the weight of history pressing down around us. The cliffs rise like silent sentinels, their jagged edges softened by centuries of wind and weather. The land here is harsh, the earth cracked and dry, yet beneath it there is the pulse of something ancient, something buried deep within. As we imagine the craftsmen and artisans who once carved chambers into the earth, working by the light of flickering oil lamps, we begin to sense the quiet dignity of their work, their hands shaping stone that one day become a sacred space for a queen who left no trace of herself except for the legacy of her name. The mystery of Nefertiti's tomb is not merely a matter of location, but of legend. It is said that she was not only a queen, but a priestess, a co-ruler beside her revolutionary pharaoh, Akhenaten. In those days, the very foundations of Egypt were being shaken as Akhenaten sought to transform the religious landscape of the kingdom. Nefertiti stood beside him in this great experiment, a symbol of power and change. And yet, beneath the weight of this transformation, Nefertiti's own story remains veiled in shadows. Some believe she may have ruled in her own right after Akhenaten's death, while others wonder if she chose to fade into the background, her power quietly extinguished in the wake of his revolution. The theories are many, but the truth remains hidden, a riddle wrapped in the dust of the desert. The further we journey into the valley, the more the air seems thick with these unanswered questions. The wind carries the scent of dry earth and forgotten secrets, and the sound of distant birds is the only sign of life here, where even the stones seem to whisper in their sleep. We imagine the funerary scenes once painted in delicate colors, now lost to time, their vibrant hues faded into the stone like a memory fading from the mind.
The courtyards where desert foxes now prowl under the watchful eyes of the stars were once the spaces where priests and mourners gathered, their faces lit by the flickering light of torches, their voices hushed by the gravity of the moment. The sealed doorways of these tombs may never open, leaving only traces of the sacred ceremonies that once took place within. In the stillness of the valley, the mystery of Nefertiti's final resting place takes on an almost spiritual quality. It is said that she was not just a queen, but a woman of profound beauty and strength, whose presence was felt by all who encountered her. And yet, her physical remains, her tomb, elude us. Some believe she was buried in a hidden chamber, sealed away by those who sought to protect her memory from the ravages of time and conquest. Others think that her final resting place was lost in a great flood, swallowed by the sands that have slowly covered the valley over millennia. As we stand in the shadow of the cliffs, where the wind sighs through cracks in the rock like a distant lullaby, we begin to feel the weight of the silence. The wind stirs the dry grasses, their rustling a soft reminder that the earth remembers. Somewhere, in the hidden chambers of the valley, a story sleeps, a story that chooses to stay hidden, its secrets buried beneath the silence. It is said that the dead do not speak, that their tombs are their final words. But in this place, the silence feels different. It is not a silence of finality, but a silence of protection, as though the earth itself has chosen to keep its secrets safe. The emotional journey through this valley moves gently from curiosity into a bittersweet melancholy. As we imagine Nefertiti's life, her reign, her love, her power, we sense the quiet dignity that comes with time's slow passage. Perhaps the mystery of her tomb is not one that will ever be solved, and perhaps it was never meant to be found. The wind moves softly through the valley, stirring the dust and the sand, reminding us that some stories are not meant to be unearthed, but simply to be remembered in the quiet spaces between words. The sun begins to sink lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the landscape. The cliffs, now bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, seem to hold the secrets of the ages within them. The valley is bathed in a soft, amber glow, and we stand in quiet reverence before the unmarked cliff face, feeling the weight of the past and the mystery that lingers here. Perhaps, in this quiet moment, we sense the presence of the queen, not as a figure of flesh and bone, but as a presence that lives on in the earth, in the wind, in the very stones that surround us. And as the night begins to settle over the valley, the stars slowly appearing above us, we realize that Nefertiti's story may not need to be told in the way we expect. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, this final resting place, this tomb. Perhaps her legacy lies not in the discovery of her remains, but in the mystery itself, in the way her name still lingers in the air like a breath that has not yet been exhaled. The wind sighs through the cracks in the cliff, and we are left standing in the quiet, the valley now swallowed by darkness, but full of echoes, whispers that will never quite fade. Somewhere, beneath the earth, the queen's last footsteps have long been erased, but the memory of her presence lingers, marked not by the sand, but by the silence of the desert itself. Perhaps some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. Perhaps Nefertiti's final journey was never meant to be uncovered, but to remain forever veiled by time in a place where memory fades, where silence speaks louder than any monument could. And so we leave the valley, with the soft feeling that not all mysteries need to be solved. Some stories, some queens, simply rest, beneath the silence, beneath the moon.
The first light of dawn touches the volcanic cliffs of Rapa Nui, casting a soft, golden glow across the vast island. The ocean, endless and patient, laps gently at the shores, its rhythmic sound mingling with the stillness of a world that has known no hurry. In the quiet embrace of the morning, the island's ancient stones stir, bathed in the quiet warmth of the sun, as if slowly awakening from a long, peaceful slumber. Above the horizon, the sky breathes in soft hues of pink and amber, the day breaking slowly over a landscape untouched by time. It is here, at the edge of the world, where the Moai stand, gazing toward the distant horizon, their colossal stone faces frozen in silent vigil. A question rises softly on the ocean breeze. Why do the Moai watch the horizon as though waiting for someone to return? Their eyes, though unblinking, seem to hold the weight of centuries. They rise from the earth like dreaming elders, their forms carved from the bones of the land, their presence eternal. For centuries, these statues have watched, standing silently as guardians of a people long gone, their purpose a mystery that the island itself seems to keep. The wind stirs the grass beneath their feet, and for a moment it is as though the island holds its breath, waiting for an answer that may never come. We wander across the grassy plains of Rapa Nui, moving slowly, as though following a rhythm that predates our steps. The Moai stand like sentinels, each one unique, each one a silent keeper of an ancient story. The island, though remote, is filled with echoes, echoes of chants passed down from memory to memory, of rituals that tied the people to the land, the sky, and the ocean. These rituals, known only in whispers, were sacred. The birdman ceremonies, the reverence paid to ancestors, the mysterious transport of these great statues from quarry to place of rest. Some believe that the Moai were not simply statues, but embodiments of ancestors, their faces carved with the wisdom and power of those who came before. Their presence, it is said, was meant to guide the living, to protect them, and to ensure that the spirit of the island's past would never fade. The myths of Rapa Nui are as old as the wind that sweeps across the land, as slow and steady as the rhythm of the tides. Some believe that the carvers who shaped the Moai were guided by spirits, that the chants they sang as they worked lifted the stones from the earth, imbuing them with life. These songs, passed from one generation to the next, were more than mere music. They were prayers, incantations that gave the Moai their strength and purpose. The land itself seems to remember these songs, for in the quiet, if we listen closely, we can almost hear them, faint echoes, like whispers carried on the wind. We drift through the quarry pits, where the unfinished figures lie in shadow, half buried in the warm earth, as though they have fallen into a deep and undisturbed sleep. Their faces are still rough, their features only partially shaped, yet they seem to breathe with a quiet life of their own. The unfinished Moai lie waiting, their forms cradled by the island's breath. There is no rush here. Time moves at its own pace, as slow as the ebb and flow of the tide. Perhaps these statues, left unfinished, are not incomplete, but simply waiting. Waiting for the right moment, waiting for the whispers of the past to guide them toward their final resting place. The land holds them, as it holds all things, gently, reverently, as though every stone, every grain of sand is part of a much larger, sacred rhythm. The emotional arc of our journey through Rapa Nui moves gently, softly, from curiosity into something deeper, a quiet, ancient awe. The island is isolated, cut off from the world by the vast, indifferent ocean, yet it is profoundly connected to the land and sky, to the spirits of the ancestors that walk the earth like shadows. We begin to sense that the island is not just a place, but a living thing. Its rocks and trees, its seas and skies, woven together in an intricate web of meaning. The Moai, though silent, carry this meaning with them. They are not simply markers of a past civilization, but living symbols of a world that continues to pulse quietly beneath the surface. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the Moai stand tall against the backdrop, their faces turned toward the sea, toward the horizon. They seem to watch, as they always have,
waiting for something that may never return. The light of the day plays across their stone faces, casting long, soft shadows that stretch toward us. In these moments, the stillness of the island seems to deepen, as though it is holding a secret, one that we may never fully understand. But in that silence, there is peace. There is a quiet dignity, a sense that everything here, from the tallest pillar to the tiniest grain of sand, is as it should be. The night begins to settle, and the island takes on a different character, bathed in the soft glow of moonlight. The moai, silhouetted against the moonlit sea, stand in quiet majesty, their stone faces still and unblinking. The air is cooler now, the wind a gentle breath that stirs the grass and the leaves of the palm trees. It is said that the old songs still drift through the night winds, soft whispers that carry the spirit of the island's past. The songs are not lost. They are simply waiting for those who are willing to listen, those who are ready to hear the whispers of the past, carried on the wind beneath the silence of the moon. Perhaps it was never meant to be fully known, the purpose of the moai, the meaning of their watchful gaze, the songs of the past that echo in the quiet of the island night. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. And so we stand, beneath the moonlit sky, feeling the weight of the island's presence, its silence, its mystery, its ancient song. The moai stand with us, their gaze fixed on the horizon, as though waiting for something that may never return. But in their waiting, in their stillness, they carry the history of this place, a history that is not bound by time, but woven into the very fabric of the island itself. As we leave the island, the memory of the moai lingers in the quiet space between our thoughts. The old songs, though we cannot hear them now, are still with us, carried on the soft wind, whispered by the sea, hidden in the shadows of the statues. And perhaps, in the silence, we understand. The island, the moai, and the songs, they are all part of the same eternal rhythm. Perhaps we are not meant to fully understand their purpose, but only to feel their presence, to carry their quiet wisdom with us, wherever we go. For the island where shadows kept the old songs is not a place of answers, but a place of waiting, a place where the past and the present meet, in silence, in song, and in the quiet dignity of stone. And so we leave, the songs fading into the wind, the moai still standing, waiting, remembering.
The lanterns flicker softly, casting a pale golden glow as we step into the narrow corridor. The air is cool, heavy with the scent of ancient stone and dust. The passage is small, winding, as though the earth itself has hidden this space from the world above. We descend slowly, our steps measured, as though we are entering a world that exists just beyond time. And in this place, deep beneath the sands of Saqqara, we enter the burial chamber of an Egyptian scribe, a keeper of words, whose legacy remains veiled beneath the layers of centuries. A question rises, soft as a whisper on the evening breeze. What does a soul become when its words outlive its breath? The answer is not immediate, nor is it simple. The question lingers in the air, hanging like the faintest echo, drifting through the chamber's silence. The scribes, who lived their lives in service to the written word, believed that through their ink they could weave eternity. They carved symbols on papyrus, on tombs, on stone, symbols that, though delicate as feathers, were meant to carry the weight of time itself. These words, these marks, were not just ink on parchment, but prayers, spells, and stories that would carry the essence of the soul far beyond its mortal breath. As we step deeper into the chamber, the walls around us come alive with hieroglyphs, shimmering faintly in the lantern light. The strokes of the scribes are fine, precise, as though they were breathing life into the stone itself.
These texts, written in the language of the gods, unfold before us like gentle stairways leading the dead toward eternal morning. Some are spells from the pyramid texts, others from the coffin texts, each one a step on the journey of the soul, guiding it toward the afterlife. The words seem to pulse softly, as though they carry their own energy, their own breath. Each symbol is not merely a letter, but a key, a guide, a reflection of the divine. We stand before these symbols, tracing their curves with our eyes, feeling the weight of their purpose. These scribes, the ones who spent their lives grinding pigments, preparing ink, and unrolling endless scrolls of papyrus, understood that words could capture something eternal. They didn't just write to preserve the mundane. They wrote to carry the soul into eternity, to record the divine, to weave the very essence of life into something that would never fade. It is said that the scribes' tools were sacred, and their work a direct connection to Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. Whispers tell us that the scribes would often murmur prayers to Thoth before they began their work, asking for his guidance, for the inspiration to capture the words that would ensure the immortality of the soul. As we move further into the heart of the chamber, we can almost feel the presence of these scribes, who labored in this quiet space, in the flickering light of their lanterns, their fingers gently shaping symbols with a tenderness reserved only for the sacred. The air around us seems to hum with the energy of their devotion. We imagine the rhythmic sound of reed pens scratching against papyrus, the soft whisper of prayers drifting on the air. The scribes did not simply record events or laws. They captured moments of existence, the breaths of kings, the deeds of gods, the rituals of the divine. Each mark they made was a prayer to eternity itself, a way to ensure that the stories, the lives, the souls they wrote about would never be forgotten. As we step deeper into the chamber, the walls around us come alive with hieroglyphs, shimmering faintly in the lantern light. The strokes of the scribes are fine, precise, as though they were breathing life into the stone itself. These texts, written in the language of the gods, unfold before us like gentle stairways leading the dead toward eternal morning. Some are spells from the pyramid texts, others from the coffin texts, each one a step on the journey of the soul, guiding it toward the afterlife. The words seem to pulse softly, as though they carry their own energy, their own breath. Each symbol is not merely a letter, but a key, a guide, a reflection of the divine. We stand before these symbols, tracing their curves with our eyes, feeling the weight of their purpose. These scribes, the ones who spent their lives grinding pigments, preparing ink, and unrolling endless scrolls of papyrus, understood that words could capture something eternal. They didn't just write to preserve the mundane. They wrote to carry the soul into eternity, to record the divine, to weave the very essence of life into something that would never fade. It is said that the scribes' tools were sacred, and their work a direct connection to Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. Whispers tell us that the scribes would often murmur prayers to Thoth before they began their work, asking for his guidance, for the inspiration to capture the words that would ensure the immortality of the soul. As we move further into the heart of the chamber, we can almost feel the presence of these scribes, who labored in this quiet space, in the flickering light of their lanterns, their fingers gently shaping symbols with a tenderness reserved only for the sacred. The air around us seems to hum with the energy of their devotion. We imagine the rhythmic sound of reed pens scratching against papyrus, the soft whisper of prayers drifting on the air. The scribes did not simply record events or laws. They captured moments of existence, the breaths of kings, the deeds of gods, the rituals of the divine. Each mark they made was a prayer to eternity itself, a way to ensure that the stories, the lives, the souls they wrote about would never be forgotten. In this stillness, the lines between myth and history blur, like the delicate flow of ink blending with the papyrus. The spells, though written in language, seem to carry the weight of dreams, of visions passed from one life to the next. Some are prayers to gods, some are maps of the afterlife, and some, perhaps, are simply reflections of the deepest hopes of the living. We are drawn into this world of symbols, where the written word is not just a tool, but a bridge between the mortal and the divine. Each hieroglyph tells a story, each stroke a breath, a bridge between the living and the dead, between what is and what will always be. As we stand in the quiet of the chamber, the emotional arc of the journey deepens. Our curiosity about the scribe's work fades into a reverence for their belief, a belief that words, when carefully written and thoughtfully spoken, can transcend time, can carry the spirit of a soul long after his body has turned to dust. The ink on the walls, still vivid after thousands of years, is not merely a record. It is a living testament to the scribe's devotion, a form of immortality that rests not in monuments or statues, but in the quiet persistence of written light. These words have not faded with the centuries. They remain here, etched into stone and papyrus, waiting for us to listen, to read, to remember. The lantern light begins to fade as the night deepens. The shadows stretch long across the chamber's walls. The silence grows heavier, more profound, as though the room itself is holding its breath. We pause, standing before the walls that hold the stories of the past, and we sense, perhaps for the first time, the weight of eternity. The scribes may have long since passed from this world, but their words remain. They have crossed the boundary of death, carried by the ink they crafted, by the symbols they believed could carry the soul across the threshold of time. As the lantern dims further, we feel the presence of those who once worked here, their hands never fully leaving the chamber. The ink, though no longer flowing from their pens, seems to pulse gently, as though it still carries the rhythm of their thoughts, their prayers. The stories they wrote, the laws they inscribed, the songs they recorded, have woven themselves into the fabric of this chamber. In this quiet, the ink seems to breathe, not in the way a living thing does, but in the way memory does, slowly, deliberately, stretching across time. Perhaps the scribes never fully left. Perhaps their hands still guide the ink, still shape the words that carry the souls of kings and queens into eternity. In this place, beneath the silence, beneath the shadows of ancient stone, the ink continues its work, its quiet persistence carrying life beyond death, its glow never fully fading. The chamber grows still. The lantern flickers once, casting a final soft light over the walls. And we, standing at the threshold of this ancient room, leave with a quiet understanding. Some names live forever, not through monuments, not through statues or kings, but through the quiet persistence of written light. The scribes of Saqqara may be gone, but their words remain. And so we walk back into the night, the echoes of their voices carried on the soft, still air. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, this understanding. Perhaps the immortality of the written word is not for us to fully grasp, but
And so we return from the depths of time, where whispers of prophecy once echoed in chambers now forgotten by all but the stars themselves. The city lies in silence once more, its stones resting beneath the earth, its secrets still hidden within the folds of history. Perhaps we are meant to leave some things undisturbed, to allow the silence of the city to remain sacred, just as the oracle herself might have desired. The quiet is the keeper of all truths, not for the eager listener, but for the patient heart, willing to let the past unfold at its own pace. As the night settles deeper around you, remember that the stories we seek are often waiting in the quiet, in the places where the light does not reach. And as you rest, may the echoes of the oracle's wisdom remain with you, carried on the winds that have traveled through centuries. Sleep now, as the city sleeps, beneath the weight of its secrets and the silence of the ages, until, in some distant future, it may speak again. Good night, and may the whispers of history guide your dreams.